This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman. President Biden's formally apologized for government-run Native American boarding schools, which separated Indigenous families and sought to exterminate Indigenous culture. He's the first U.S. president to ever do so. Biden issued the apology Friday while visiting the Gila River Indian community in Arizona, where Democrats are vying for the support of Native communities, a crucial voting bloc that could swing the results of next week's election. This was Biden's first diplomatic visit to a tribal nation in his 4-year term. He spoke for a few seconds before he was interrupted by an Indigenous protester.
The federal Indian boarding school policy, the pain it has caused, will always be a significant mark of shame, a blot on American history. For too long, this all happened with virtually no public attention, not written about in our history books.
No, what about the people in Gaza?
Not taught in our schools. Let her talk. Let her talk.
It's an empty promise for our people. How can you apologize for a genocide while committing a genocide in Palestine? Free Palestine!
Oh, no, let her go. There's a lot of innocent people being killed. There's a lot of innocent people being killed, and it has to stop.
The U.S. government operated hundreds of boarding schools from 1819 to 1969, where children reported horrific physical, sexual, and psychological abuse. An Interior Department investigation this year found nearly 1,000 Indigenous children died while at these schools. Biden was joined Friday by Interior Secretary Deb Haaland, the first ever Native American cabinet secretary member of the Pueblo of Laguna, whose grandparents were forced to attend boarding schools.
Tens of thousands of Indigenous children as young as 4 years old were taken from their families and communities and forced into boarding schools run by the U.S. government and religious institutions. These federal Indian boarding schools have impacted every Indigenous person I know. Some are survivors, some are descendants, but we all carry the trauma that these policies and these places inflicted.
That's Deb Haaland and President Biden speaking at the Gila River Indian community in Arizona. For more, we go to Raleigh, North Carolina, where we're joined by Nick Tilsen, founder and CEO of the Indigenous-led NDN Collective. Nick, thanks so much for joining us again on Democracy Now! Can you talk about the significance of this apology, the first American president to do so, and what you are calling for?
Absolutely. I mean, I think this is one of the most historic moments in the history of this country in its relationship with Indian people. And to be clear, this moment was really created and led by the leadership of Secretary Deb Haaland and her team there at the Department of Interior. And what this has meant and means for Indian country is that we hope that this is a beginning of an era of repair. Repair between the United States government and the Indigenous people and the first people of this land. And as monumental as this apology is, we have to embrace the complexity of this moment. We have to embrace the complexity of this moment and lean towards action too, because it can't be an apology that's on empty words. And they've been making great strides, at the Department of Interior by investing into Indigenous education and by investing into research to further know and understand what has happened, with the Indian boarding schools. But we need more of that. And so some of the things that we're calling on is there's a few things that President Biden can do before he leaves office to follow up on this. One of those calls to action is rescinding the medals of honor that were given to the 7th Cavalry at the massacre at Wounded Knee in 1890. To rescind those medals of honor would be a way to invoke healing. The other thing that we're calling upon is, America's longest living Indigenous political prisoner in American history is a boarding school survivor, and his name is Leonard Peltier. And so we're calling upon President Biden for executive clemency for Leonard Peltier. We also want to see this administration and actually future administrations invest into unprecedented levels of investing into Indigenous language, culture, and education, because it was the education that was weaponized and used as a mechanism to assimilate our people. And as a result of that, so many Indigenous languages were lost. And so now we're calling upon Biden to invest into unprecedented levels of Indigenous education and languages. And then lastly, what we want to see Congress do is we want to see Congress pass the U.S. Truth and Healing Commission bill, because that bill would make sure that the truth and healing work that is currently underway can be supported for the long haul, far into the future, because it's not one apology that can fix this. This is hopefully the beginning of a new era of repair and healing between Indigenous people and the United States government.